on the Rob Dibble Show. It's about to get real for the UConn men.
The point guard will be playing in his first NCAA tournament. That's Tristan Newton. Bueno.
And Tristan, what was the experience like for you? This is a new experience for you.
Pretty exciting. Very nerve-wracking, honestly. Not knowing where we're going to be seated.
Back to Wayne Norman. He's with Jordan Hawkins.
Yes, and like Tristan, he's carried a basketball too. Is this a thing for the guards to be carrying a basketball around so you take good care of it?
I mean, absolutely. Since I was a kid, I always kept this thing with me, so never leaves my side.
Karaban rocks it with a three-ball.
Alex Karaban, one of the Big East all-freshman performers for the Huskies.
How cool was this tonight? How special was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was so excited sitting there watching Selection Sunday and nervous in a sense just because March Madness has always been a dream of mine.
Any guest calling into the Rob Dibble Show does so via the Bobby V's and Sports Tag Hotline. Got that feeling! And now, here's Rob Dibble.
I think it's just kids today. They don't sound excited. They just are on the inside.
He was pumped,
I was
man.
so excited.
He was pumped.
I couldn't contain myself.
He's so excited to this day. Now, this moment.
I tell all of my baseball players, if they're hitters or everyday players or pitchers, you need to carry the equipment around with you. Brianna Stewart used to dribble the basketball when she was a kid around her neighborhood. I mean, that's part. It has to become part of you and become second nature. So I love that Wayne Norman, Alex Karaban interview because that's what it's all about. It's about the loving it so much that you can't be without it. And I think it's great for all kids to hear that kind of stuff.
Big weekend.
Huge
so
weekend, but
pressure.
playing games last night were very exciting. The Fairleigh Dickinson Texas Southern game that will be happening tonight, Nevada, Arizona State. Hopefully they're as good as the ones that were last night, but the Texas A&M Corpus Christi, Southeast Missouri, 75-71 came down to the wire, and that's what you want. And then Pittsburgh, Mississippi State, 2-11s that we still can't figure out why 2-11s are playing a play-in game, 60-59. And so, I think it's not just about defense, it's about making your foul shots. Down the stretch, you're going to get fouled a lot. The last 2 minutes of probably every game, people are, I can't stand that. So, to me, I think that's more about your mental state than anything. If you can overcome the adversity, you can overcome being in these neutral sites and still be able to sink these free throws and move on. I think that's the most exciting part of some of these games.
Well, that was the story last night, I would say. The first game, yep. I think it was, as they call them, SEMO, Southeast Missouri State. They were in foul trouble with about 16 minutes to go in the first half. They had two guys that ended up fouling out. Could have easily been four. On the other side, Corpus Christi ended up having two guys with 4 fouls that finished. But Corpus Christi, one of the best free throw shooting teams in the entire nation. So not only can they make them, but they get there very often. How many points they
27
have?
at the charity stripe, as they call it. 27 for 35, 70%.
That's the ball game.
And Southeast Missouri made only 45% of theirs, 9 for 20.
That's the ball game. On the other side, I do vividly remember a miss when it was down in the wire of Mississippi State. They had a chance to, I think it was increase that lead by 3. They ended up staying on top by 2, left the door very cracked, almost wide open for Pittsburgh to drive through it. Pittsburgh knocking down some threes. When Mississippi State started really hot, I think they made their first 4 and then went cold from there on. But the free throw, the big free throw that made that, when you have that 2-point lead, it feels a lot safer, honestly, or a lot easier to come back on than having to make that 3 with just a minute to go because you don't know if you're going to get that possession back. So when you get that 2, it's almost like having the option, to go for the go-ahead run in your world.
Well, and Pitt only put them on the line for 7 shots. I mean, right. Pittsburgh ended up not shooting well, 9 for 15, 60%, but at least they were on the line a little bit more. They only allowed 7 free throws because they didn't commit a lot of fouls. So that's good coaching. That's discipline. And especially in these games like we talk about, you don't want to get into foul trouble. This happened to UConn a couple of their losses where we were talking about the officials getting them kind of into foul trouble with some of these ticky-tack fouls. But when you're, in the bonus with 13 minutes to go in the second half, it's a nightmare for a team.
Yeah, and it's the difference. I mean, it's the first thing that you look at when you think of the woulda, coulda, shoulda moments. It's those easy bunnies that are just handed to you. I'm super nervous about Friday, man. I do believe, we've been talking to so many different people on the show, outside the show, of the UConn-Iona first-round matchup Friday that everybody around town is going to be watching or listening to. I do believe that the pressure is on for that game. But I also believe if they're able to win that game, the pressure is off. And it feels, at least for me, I'm sure the team and everyone else feels different. But for me, if UConn wins that first one, pressure is off and it's house money from there, and they can play free. At least that's what positive thinking I have moving forward without looking past Iona. But this Iona matchup, man, I'm nervous about it. I do not think it is a foregone conclusion that UConn's going to walk into the second round.
Whatever team shows up, if the team that can hit threes and, get some separation with Newton and, Hawkins, and they put some stuff down, and then Caravan starts hitting a couple of threes.
Outside
and then
shots is what you want.
Outside shots.
Yeah.
To free up the inside, whether Klingon can throw in 8 to 10 points and Sonogo gets his 20, that's going to be huge separation. But, Andre Jackson, you nailed it last game when they were knocked out of the Big East finals or semifinals. He's got to be on the floor.
Yeah.
And after you get one quick foul, you can't, Coach Hurley doesn't need to remind you, we need you in there. That second foul is going to bench you in the first half. So you have to have the discipline to be like, listen, I know I kind of play with a reckless abandon at times, but you also have to say I'm one of the most important pieces to the success of this team. So that's when I talk about knowing your limitations. Sitting on the bench, that's not going to help UConn. So if Jackson can be in there stopping, the kid that scores some points for Iona or any of these teams that we're going to play in the NCAA tournament, that's one of the biggest. You've got, it's like Nika Mule getting in foul trouble. If Nika Mule is on the bench, UConn women are in trouble, because you don't have someone that is constantly pressuring the ball, constantly getting some steals and turning defensive stops into offensive points. I just think that it's guys knowing what they have to do here, and that's not putting pressure on yourself. That's like, listen, let's do defense first. If I can turn some stuff into points and help the team, that's great. But if I can get some stops, that's as good as me getting a bucket.
UConn-Iona Friday, 4:00. Set your alarms. That's when the pregame will begin right here on these Rob Dibble Show stations. Before we got into the studio, like minutes before we walked into the studio, Aaron Rodgers kind of made it official. Made his intentions official. That's what we'll say. He made his intentions official that he intends to play for the New York Jets.
Yeah, with anything being signed, sealed, and delivered, he goes on the Pat McAfee show, and this has been something that's been going on for over a year now. And, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are the time that he usually comes on and basically said, I intend to play for the New York Jets in 2023. And I think when you start seeing, and reading the tea leaves with the coaching hires, now some of the free agent signings, I think they're preparing this. But I think, everybody's got to, dot the I's, cross the T's, get everything signed and get this guy traded. And, but what's to stop? We'll have Al Gattuso coming up here in about 15 minutes. What's to stop him from going in a hole after this season and doing the same damn thing?
Right.
And if you're the Jets, you have to be nervous. If we give up all kinds of draft picks, future considerations, and mortgage our future for this guy, you would want at least 2 years out of Aaron Rodgers, maybe 3. But you want at least some kind of guarantee that this guy's not going to pull the rug out from underneath you this offseason after you play for the Jets. I'm not even worried about what the outcome of 2023-24 is for the Jets. I'm worried about, are you going to pull this crap on them? And you nailed it. You brought up Brett Favre. Brett Favre was, I'm going to retire. I'm going to unretire. I'm going to retire. I'm going to unretire. I mean, Tom Brady's a totally different animal because the dude played 25 years. He's 45 years old. He's got the right to retire, unretire.
7 rings.
But Favre, as good as he was in his prime, that I'm ready to leave, I'm not ready to leave kind of thing, it leaves so many things undone. And you have to get a lot of these things. Upper management needs to get people signed, rework contracts, know what the roster is going to look like. And if your main piece keeps waffling, so to speak, and so I'm more worried about Aaron Rodgers waffling this offseason than him actually playing for the Jets this year.
Well, I think if you're the general manager, if you're Joe Douglas, you should have that in mind, and you should plan accordingly. Buyer beware. I say the same thing about Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Like
These are not normal cats anymore,
but
though.
you know what they are. You know who they are. They've shown you their colors for years, so you should just plan for that. The thing with the Jets is I put them in the same category as what I did the Rams 2 years ago, the Bills last year. They're in all-in mode. They're shoving all their chips into the middle of the table, and they're trying to win, if not this year, next year, mainly because of their rookie situation. I mean, you got a Sauce Gardner on the outside that's going to be the top-paid cornerback in a couple of years. Yep. You've got some defensive linemen that may command big-time top 10 money. The Garrett Wilson may turn out to be a receiver that you're going to have to pay $10 million plus to every year. So in order to deal with the cap and deal with the fluctuation of how you have to do it in the NFL, these 2 years with Aaron Rodgers are all in mode, shoving our chips in and trying to get this Super Bowl championship within that 2-year window because of not Aaron Rodgers, but because of those rookies that we drafted last year that turned out to be awesome on defense. So we already signed up Lazard. Randall Cobb's probably on his way. Mercedes Lewis also a part of the grocery list, I guess you could say, for Aaron Rodgers in order for him to come there. But the question I'll have for Al is offensive line. Like, that's the one thing I always find interesting, that quarterbacks want to take their buds that are receivers, which I totally get that. Tight ends, totally get that. But, man, like, you got to get protected, right? Wouldn't you, like, have a big sloppy that's your best friend?
And I'm surprised that he didn't say that. You know, I'd like you to also try to acquire or sign some of my big, fat linemen that have protected my butt for years. You know, Bakhtari, some of these other guys. So I just think that, I need guys to catch the ball. Dude, if you're on your back or you're getting beat up, this is a tough division, man. Bills are tough. Dolphins are tough. Jets are going to get better because of Aaron Rodgers and some of the guys. But the Patriots are already retooling, and we need as many draft picks as we can get. We need cap space. I don't ever doubt Bill Belichick and his mind. He is going to figure out a way to get better with whether what his pieces are now or what he can acquire before the season starts.
Yes, but the one thing he has feasted on is the lack of a veteran quarterback for 2 weeks out of the year from the New York Jets. Yep. And he just kills rookie quarterbacks. He kills backup quarterbacks. His game plan scheme is 400, 500 expert level that no one can figure out. But when you're dealing with a freak of nature, the dude is a freak of nature in Josh Allen. I'm sorry. He can take on linebackers at the quarterback position. That's freaky to me.
Right.
You got, who knows what's going on in Miami, but their offensive game plan is definitely a lot better last year than it has been. And then now you've got Aaron Rodgers in the New York Jets. So the neighborhood for the New England Patriots on defense has gotten a little bit more complicated than it was in the past. By the way, Patriots just signed up Juju Schuster-Smith to help out the offense and Mac Jones, but
I got bigger breaking news.
They'll probably be making even more.
Can you hit a sounder?
What do you got? Oh, okay. Breaking news.
Ja Morant suspended 8 games for conduct detrimental to the league.
Yeah.
And, waving a gun on Instagram obviously is not good for the NBA, along with what Damian Lillard just had to say. People sitting out games with load management. Adam Silver rumored to be leaving for Disney. All of the above with the NBA right now, and Lakers sucking. That doesn't help either because they always want their New York teams and their LA, their coastal teams to be great. I just think that league is in a flux right now. And, I think that a lot of these older players are going to be leaving the league. These young stars are what you're banking on. Just 6 months ago, we talked about what a great player, great guy Ja Morant is, giving, kids autographs, sneakers, jerseys, stuff like that. And just one bad thing that you do and a bad choice that you make can turn that all around and be negative publicity. So I think I'm not worried about the suspension. He can afford it. I don't think Memphis loves the fact that, they're being dragged in this with them. But, young people with a lot of money. Tim Legler said this years ago on our show. He said, you never know what's going to happen with young people when you throw a lot of money their way and how they're going to react to that and go out there and act.
Well, the silver, I'll take all your bullet points because I'd like them all because I think they're very important, but I think one's more important than the others. I think Adam Silver, I'm sorry, he's a decent guy. He's a great business HR manager. I don't think he's the best commissioner. I think that the league has gotten to the way it is now because of him. I'm super disappointed. If I was a part of his circle, I'd say, dude, stop being an idiot. And put your stupid gun away. Don't be a moron. And let's go play basketball. I don't know why we got to go to rehab for it. I don't know.
That's
suspension. I like. Right. That's good. I mean, if you got to learn that lesson that way, then so be it.
Forget rehab. Go talk to kids in inner cities. Go talk to these kids in Chicago and Baltimore and all the places where they're killing each other with weapons. You can really make some good out of this.
And just
so sending him to rehab is just it's
right. I agree.
That's putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. That's ridiculous.
And even though Charles Barkley says he doesn't want to be a role model to your kids like he did back in the day,
John's a role model.
It doesn't matter.
News for you.
You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. If you want to play in the NBA and be the biggest star, you're going to be a role model for not just kids, but adults even, and maybe even some of your own teammates. Damian Lillard's comments about him not enjoying the league, I think that's the worst out of all your bullet points you just threw at me. I have not liked the NBA in the last 2 years in the regular season faux show. I said yesterday, miss me with all regular season talk, get me in 10 games when we get to the actual playoffs, just because of effort. Like the lack of wanting to play basketball. It boggles my mind to the point where I'm so turned off by it. So turned off by, we did the rants yesterday. I think of Singletary. I want winners. I want people that want to win.
Want to play.
I would rather.
They don't want a day off.
I'd rather go out there with 4 and get beat up and down the court, knowing that I got 4 that are all in, rather than playing 5 when I know one guy is on his own agenda. Can't do it. Won't do it.
Listen, my sport's in big trouble, too. I mean, the WBC shows you that when you don't have a lot of constraints and restraints that and stupid bells and whistles, that people are still going to love your sport.
It's fun.
It is. It's fun. These guys are playing with heart and passion because they're representing their countries, their families, their fan bases. Then you turn on a spring training game, and I see a giant clock. It looks like a shot clock to me.
It is a shot.
It looks like an NBA shot clock, 25 seconds, 20 seconds. Get that damn thing out of there. That's stupid. It's stupid. So, Adam Silver may not be the best commissioner. He's nowhere near as bad as Rob Manfred. This guy is such a tool in monumental proportions with the stupid. The bases are fine. It doesn't bother me.
I like the
But even the talk of moving a mound back, I have so many injuries just with 75 kids in my facility on just throwing. Just throwing, it wreaks havoc on kids that don't take a lot of time off. I try to get them to recover by playing other sports, and a lot of the parents are still pushing them. Want to play 12 months a year? Well, you shouldn't play 12 months a year because these things are going to happen. Even their bodies, even their growth plates with their knees and their joints. There's so many of these things happening, and I see it right in front of me every day. So imagine the major leagues now trying to get Freddie Freeman to stop playing the WBC, getting all of these pitchers. If you just watched the Dominican in their latest game, the starting pitcher went 2 innings, and then it was bullpen by committee after that. It's a spring training game.
I haven't seen anybody pitch more than 2.
Well, Lance Lynn just did 5 on Monday, for Team USA. But
that's
again,
the first. That's the first.
You've put these constraints on the tournament guys. And then in spring training, you have these new rules that they're trying to figure out as they go, even the umpires. And then, you know what, we're going to have to change them. And I love Kevin Kernan, but Kevin's always right about, beforehand, why didn't you think this stuff through? Why didn't you think this through that the hitter, even though he can't leave the box, if he's not ready with 6 seconds to go, you're going to call a ball or a strike? That's insanity. Because now you're like, well, now the pitcher has to, because it's back to regular baseball. And here's the thing, as a pitcher, I used to watch the guy out there, and a lot of guys, I'm like, okay, get in the damn box. I'm waiting for you. And so most pitchers aren't going to try to quick pitch you. But now that you give me a clock, and that guy's got to be in there by a certain time, as soon as I get the ball back, I'm ready to go. I think that, and I told you this up front, pitchers or players, athletes will find a way to break the system or bend the system to where it benefits them and I gain an edge. That's what I was all about when I played. That's what I watch right now. And so the WBC is a pure product This scripted crap that Rob Manfred's trying to do is just it's lame, and people have already seen through it, and God bless them.
I have found some kinks in the system. Just the pitch clock does add an element of, I don't want to call it like cheekiness or gamesmanship, but it's just inherent. I would do the same thing Scherzer's doing with quick pitching people. I would do the same thing when I'm on first. Like if I'm on first, and especially if you're a right-hander and you got your back to me and the clock's at 2, I'm gone.
Then you combine that with extra innings. Now you got your ghost runner and you got all this stuff combining in this situation.
Well, and then, the extra innings now, Kurt, I'm like, fine, then put 2 ghost runners out there and have an out, okay? End the game, because now you don't want guys to get hurt so bad you're not letting them pitch. You don't want them to play. If I'm the Dodgers and I'm paying $150 million for Freddie Freeman, I wouldn't have let him go in the first place. I don't let Aaron Judge go play. I don't let these guys risk it. I'm paying $500 million for Mike Trout. That's great. Mike Trout loves playing in these games. You know why? Because it's like a playoff game, because it's one of the few games we're watching.
I got to see him.
Meaning. That's right. You got to see him.
I did get to see him.
But at the same time, Artie Moreno, the owner of the Angels, is his heart's in his fist every time the guy takes the field. The Detroit Tigers owner. When I saw Javi Baez do that maneuver, the maneuver's great. If that guy blows out his knee and he's done for the season, holy crap, you might as well just burn season ticket holders. Just burn all their tickets right now. They're not going to want to come to these games. So I always think of the big picture. Rob Manfred just thinks of like, what are we doing tomorrow? Yeah. Oh, okay. We'll copy the NBA a little bit. Yeah, I kind of like that shot clock thing. I've been watching the NBA. It's pretty cool.
I've never seen Trout and Shohei smile so much when they're playing baseball,
because they're not under MLB,
or they're not on the Angels.
That's right. They're not on the Angels, but they're not restricted. They're not restricted. They don't have a restrictor plate on. Kind of bringing NASCAR in here for Kurt. You know, when you're just let loose, you're a horse out of the barn, and I let you into the fields and you can run like crazy. That's what these ball players are doing right now.
All right, I knew this was going to happen today because there's talks about it, and I was wondering how you were going to react to it. Ezekiel Elliott has been cut by the Dallas Cowboys.
I don't have a problem with it. It's a money-saving thing.
Yeah.
So you overpaid him a few years ago. His production immediately went down. I hate it because I love the dude, but it's a business decision. And business, whether it's the NFL, NBA, MLB, sucks. So I just hope he doesn't end up on the Giants or the Jets. Or Giants, or the Eagles, or the Commanders.
He will find a job.
Listen, he's still a very good running back, and you could re-sign the guy for less money. I mean, there's ways around all of that stuff. So it sucks. We're all just waiting for that day to get a pink slip in our locker like Major League.
Man, it feels like yesterday we were having this argument about Jerry Jones. Should he pay him? Should he not pay him? It was not that long ago.
If I'm Dak Prescott, I'm nervous too, and he should be. All right, we'll have Al Gattullo from 970 The Answer. Has a nice beer cast every Sunday night that you should check out as well. Al Gattullo on New York Sports. Let's talk about it next on the Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell on your afternoon drive. Kurt Kaplan on the ones and twos. Another play-in group of games tonight. About 6:40 they start?
Yeah, they started early.
Yeah.
I was in the car and I was like, wait a second, we're already in the. Wow.
And you had to go to True TV to find it, but it was worth it. It was definitely worth it. We'll be right back on your afternoon drive.